Welcome to After the Rain, a storytelling podcast from Playa Lakes Joint Venture. These are the voices stewarding the land and the stories that surface after the rain. In the Texas Panhandle, water has always been the limiting factor and the driving force. Veterinarian and landowner Grotegut talks about the irrigation, drought, and why getting water use back in balance might be the smartest bet we make.
The economic driver post-World War II, people trying to raise families, really pushed that idea of irrigation as a way to increase production in our area. And of course, that portion of the experiment worked.
Production went up, but something else was happening underground.
The fallacy of the experiment was the length of time that the aquifer could handle that. The truth of it was that since sometime in the 50s, we have been exploiting it faster than we've been recharging it. And so it's basically a water use to water replacement mismatch. And the only real solution to solve that problem is to get that back in balance.
So what does balance look like on the ground?
You either utilize less water by any means possible, whether it be through technology or significant drops in acreages that's irrigated. We still have in our region areas where they're still trying to harvest a lot of irrigated crop. That mismatch continues. And of course, that does have effect.
Chris says one solution is transitioning irrigated farmland back to grazing lands.
Since about 2010, we have been on this move back toward putting irrigated farmland back to grassland and grazing lands instead of intensive row crop production. In our case, since that time, we've changed and have moved significantly more toward plant species that are more adapted to our region.
Then came the 2011 drought and a turning point.
When the 2011 drought hit, we only received like 3 inches of rainfall that year. And so that combination and the desire to see if we did quit pumping as much water, if it would stabilize, because if it wouldn't, then we knew we were sitting on a bad investment.
So they took the risk, pumped less, and watched.
Fortunately, it did stabilize and did improve. And so we were able to see some things that there was actually some hope here for people for a very, very long timeline, pending that the area receives some rainfall to continue to recharge the aquifers from time to time. Although slow, it's still a cumulative of weeks, months, years, decades, centuries of behavior that affects what's down there.
On balance sheets and pivots, stability matters.
When you look at it at the rate of decline in the region, if you're stable and everybody else is going down, you know your relative asset value is holding up relative to everyone else's. And there's a value into, even on a balance sheet, if your water table's holding in there and your well capacity are holding in there when you need some water, there's huge advantages to that versus the situation where people continue to pump it hard and they continue to drop the capacity of the pumps. Because the truth of it is you drop the capacity of your pumps, you really are individually disarming your ability on your irrigated acres by a dry condition period. You're really just killing it.
And Playas, they're the recharge machine you can photograph in action.
The Playa recharge rate is actually very easy to document because you can take a picture of it when it fills up and pay attention to how many days it takes for it to disappear. And the faster it disappears from a hydrological perspective, the better. I did not know by removing of pits and berms how much faster it was going to speed things up. When you get rid of any impediments to moving water across that entire surface area, when you do that, it massively increases the rate of infiltration.
Restoration means reversing past modifications to playas by removing excess sediment from farming, filling drainage features, redirecting water back into the playa so water can reach the whole basin, cracks and all.
We have 7 playas on our property. Most of them were not farmed. We have one that was intensively farmed. When we bought the property, we immediately let it go back to itself. And that playa has significantly improved over the last 10 or 15 years as far as its ability to take in water. But it has the most silting issue that we have on any playa on our property.
For landowners eyeing the bottom line, Chris says the market is moving towards water and grass.
You have to look at playa restoration as a tool to enhance the value of your property. And what's unique is if you look at the current real estate market in our region, we're at the point that water drives value, and so does grasslands. And in the past, those playas were bad property because you weren't producing the crop on it, or if you tried, it wasn't as good. As water supplies have tightened up across a large part of the central U.S., the value of water going in has increased, and the value of grazing lands has increased relative to the value of irrigated land.
As a vet, his metaphor is blunt and memorable.
It's kind of simple. If your patient's running out of blood, quit poking holes in it.
So what's the future? Think more grasslands, healthy playas, reused water, and fair deals for producers.
Restoration of playas on a large scale and compensating producers through purchasing of water rights is the cheapest alternative. We have to halt usage, particularly irrigated usage and industrial other usage in enough of the area to meet the residents and urban industrial usage supplies. I think the combination of the acreage and wastewater reuse and conservation practices in town of cutting waste in the pipeline systems and storage systems, if we attack it on every level, I think the future here is quite good and quite a bit less expensive than the other alternatives.
It won't be easy, but in the long race, conserving water is how you finish.
You can have a slower race car and win the race because you're not going to run out of fuel, and the fuel is your water supply. But if you run out, you're dead on the tracks.
From the Playas to the plains, this is the work of keeping communities livable, not just this year, but for the next 150.